government and a visible state. The ANC is calling for our government to act with a sense of visible purpose on the issues that touch our people directly. The NEC does not characterize the majority of these activities as xenophobic, because xenophobic is something that equals to hate crime and is condemned universally by laws of the United Nations. And we believe that South Africans are not xenophobic. There are those among these groupings who gravitate to hatred, and which is dangerous for our country. We cannot, as a country, be proud of being labeled as a country that is xenophobic, a country that fought apartheid and defeated it with the support of others, and apartheid crime against humanity, the same as xenophobia. That is why the anti-racist conference was held here in South Africa and adopted important resolutions in our country in Durban. The NEC understands the pressures on our economy and on our communities arising from unlawful immigration. And the NEC shares the concerns of the people of South Africa on these matters. The NEC, however, cautions the organizers and the leaders of the ANC to be vigilant against third force infiltration of their ranks. The discipline of lawful protest is the discipline of every South African in our democracy. The conduct of vigilantism, hate speech, and intimidation that the country has seen in some of its clinic doors and some of its school gates and some of its factory floors over the past period is in its proper legal characterization the conduct that falls within the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Act, Act 16 of 2003. A child that seeks education must be supported by all of us. A child that seeks immunization against measles or polio must be given the necessary support. We are not a cruel people. A child that does not get these vaccines will be a danger to the community. The ANC supports the application of hate crimes and hate speech acts by the National Prosecuting Authority and by the South African Police on every act that meets its provisions. When we protest and when we mount pressure movements, which is our constitutional right and the standing tradition of our struggle, we urge our people to balance their actions with the discipline of legality. We cannot fight unlawful conduct in a democracy by ourselves engaging in unlawful conduct. We must together safeguard the reputation, the image, and the stability of our country so that we do not end up causing more harm than the harm we set out to address. We are a great people among the peoples of the world. We are called upon by our forebears to make demands but to remain humane, to protest but to carry Ubuntu in our hands, to agitate progressively but to remember our own long road to freedom. And the road our continent walked with us on that journey, to leave weapons at home and not carry them in public, to respect our traditions like the traditions of Amabuto, and not misuse these great heritage instruments in a manner that causes disrepute to our pride as South Africans. Let me be clear, the demands placed on our government to act decisively on the question of border management, on the national security issues that arise, on the strain on our people and our communities, at the confluence of unlawful immigration and all its manifestations, from human trafficking to illicit trade, from crime to the corruption of government officials in Home Affairs and the South African Police Service. These demands are genuine, and these demands are real, and the government is at work on every one of them. The NEC further calls upon the private sector, upon the employers, upon the recruitment agencies, upon every enterprise operating on the soil of the Republic to adhere, without exception, to the labor laws and to the immigration laws of the country. The recruitment of undocumented workers in order to suppress wages, to circumvent the Labor Relations Act, to evade the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, to undermine the sectoral determinations of the Minister of Employment and Labor, and to displace the rightful claims of South African workers and of legally resident workers on the job market is criminal. It is unpatriotic. It is a direct subversion of the laws of our country and of the spirit of national reconstruction that the Constitution of the Republic enjoins upon every sector in our economy. The ANC places the private sector squarely on notice. The ANC in government will pursue, through the Department of Employment and Labor and through the National Prosecuting Authority, through the South African Revenue Service, and through the Labor Inspectorate, every enterprise that profits from this practice. The cost of compliance with the law is borne by the lawful employer and by the lawful worker. The ANC government will ensure that those who externalize that cost onto our communities and onto our country pay the full weight of the law. The President of the Republic has announced the rolling out of 10,000 additional posts in the Department of Employment and Labor to be filled and trained as labor inspectors. The President of the Republic announced the rolling out of tens of thousands of additional posts, I wish to repeat, in the Department of Employment and Labor. These 10,000 new positions will be filled and trained as labor inspectors. There will be South African inspectors empowered to intercept the unlawful employment of any person not authorized by South African law to be employed by enterprises operating in our country. Where an employer is found undercutting our labor laws, the inspectorate will act. We ask our people once again to refrain from taking the law into their own hands. When we do so, we allow critics to call us names, shame us as vigilante society. The Border Management Authority has commenced a build program to upgrade at least 6 of our principal border posts and the surrounding infrastructure. The upgrade introduces technology and a modernized interface capable of tracking and tracing any tourist who overstays the lawful period of stay and any person who enters for a short-term stay and then declines to leave. The technology includes smart drone capability operating in real time, monitoring every kilometer of South African border. The Special Investigating Unit continues its mandate to rid the Department of Home Affairs of officials who place our people at risk by selling undeserved official documentation. The Hawks and the National Prosecuting Authority continue their cases. The work on the South African Police Service is publicly before the country on the television screens to rid the service of bribe takers and of officers involved in syndicate crime and to move them from the service directly into the cells of the Department of Correctional Services. The NEC urges the Department of Home Affairs to consider, with appropriate agency, the reintroduction of quota limits on immigration intake. Our country must decide transparently and in the public interest